All right, guys, welcome into my official presidential 2024 election tier list based off of who would be the best president for the United States in 2024. I am a pure independent, so this is kind of a good neutral perspective, and we do have a lot of candidates to get to. You can take a look at the categories. We've got yes, pretty self-explanatory, possibly, maybe, not great, and then no. So, those are the tiers we're going to go by, and we're just going to go through all of the potential candidates, both Republican and Democrat. Republicans obviously having the primary. They're going to decide their candidate through that. And then the Democrats will see what their overall war strategy is with Biden. I think they're waiting to see if he deteriorates much more. They do want that incumbent advantage with Biden. But at this point, it's anyone's guess. He's aged horribly, and he is really old, which is going to be something that's used significantly against him by whoever the Republican candidate is. So let's get to it, starting with Nikki Haley. Not great, I'm going to say. Possibly just no in general. A lot of these people are probably going to go in no. Nikki Haley, if it was 2008, I would say maybe she has a chance. If it was 2012, maybe. But with the Republicans, ever since Trump took over in 2016, a candidate like her, it's just not going to happen. She would get trounced by the mainstream media anyways because she has a tough time fighting back. I'm going to say no. AOC, probably not running. I've been seeing her appear in some of the polls, getting like 4 or 5% of support amongst Democrats. I mean, listen, I'm not going to go off on a rant about, socialism or communism. I know she's not a communist, but the reason something like that will never work in America, and it's shocking that this even needs to be said, when you create a government that doesn't incentivize innovation, which is what communism is. Once you reach a certain amount of money, making more money doesn't become practical because you get taxed so ridiculously high. You will stagnate as a society. Why do you think America is by far number one in anything? Number one in everything. It's because of the income inequality. And I know everyone hates that, but that's the reason we're number one, because you have the potential. Even though it's like a less than a 0.01% chance, you've got the potential to make $1 billion. It's easier. If I have $1 million right now, it's so much easier to make another $1 million and then another $1 million. That's why we have this ridiculous inequality, and it's a capitalist society. It's why NFL players get paid millions, NBA players, because you get paid what you're worth. And when you put a cap on that, there is no incentive once you reach a certain threshold of income earning to go any further, which will limit the overall country's growth. So I know her thing is socialism, but just any socialism, communism to where everyone makes the same amount will completely hurt the overall economy and the overall strength of a country. We're number one in the world in military. We spend so much more than every other country combined. Every other country is scared of us because we run a capitalist society that enables people to make such absurd amount of money. And you get companies like Apple, you get iPhone, you get, social media. All of its innovation, all of it is because there's an incentive to create to where you could become a millionaire or a billionaire. So that's why that whole idea of socialism, everyone making the same, is completely fraud. I'm sure a lot of us already know that, but there are young people that think it's a good idea, and it's important to educate people and understand. So Donald Trump, Trump, I'm going to say possibly. The thing with Trump, I was one of the first people to like Trump back in 2015. At this point in 2023, it's very clear he's all about himself. So like all these people that are behind Trump, that support Trump, you have to understand, not that he doesn't care about you, but Trump is going to do what's best for Trump. There's no sacrifice from him. He's extremely selfish, and you could say a lot of these politicians are selfish, but like we saw how he handled the pandemic, and he was like, the spokesperson almost to get the shot, and you see how that turned out. Like with his base, it's so ironic. His base hates that, and he was kind of pushing it right when it started because he wanted to score brownie points and be like the savior of the pandemic. But no, overall with Trump, there's about 1,000 things I could say about him. You know, I think, and this is something that the Democrats are doing that I respect, the Democrats with this indictment, which you would hope the Democrats know this is completely ridiculous, they are trying to help Trump in the Republican primaries because they don't want to face DeSantis because Trump will be easier to beat in the general election. If you remember, Trump loses the popular vote in 2016. He barely beats a horribly unlikable candidate in Hillary, and then in 2020 he gets trounced and then cries about voter fraud. Listen, I'm not going to talk about the voter fraud. I know Democrats were gaslighting when they said, oh, it's the most secure election in history. Yeah, that's completely false. It had the most mail-in ballots by far due to the pandemic because everyone was scared. And there are other countries throughout the world that actually ban mail-in ballots because mail-in ballots have rampant voter fraud. So you're going to come back and tell me it's the most secure election when it's by far has the most mail-in ballots, and mail-in ballots do have a ton of voter fraud. It's ridiculous. I'm not saying that's why Trump lost. I think if you lose by 7 million votes, you'd have to have a lot of fraud there. But with Trump, the Democrats know he's easier to beat than DeSantis. They're indicting him so all the Republicans get triggered by it and say, no, you're treating Trump differently just because he paid off some lady for whatever back, whenever it was 7 years ago. This is ridiculous. It is a complete witch hunt, and it is. But the whole idea is the Democrats want Trump to get all the support so that he will be the Republican nominee and DeSantis will lose to him. So, and listen, it is what it is. With Trump, maybe a few years ago it would be yes. I'll say possibly it is what it is. Mike Pence, it's not great, Mike. It's really not. Mike Pence has virtually no chance. He's your typical normal conservative. If he somehow ran in the general, he would get trounced for the same-sex marriage stuff, I'm sure, because that's basically widely supported now that should be legal. I don't know what Pence's political beliefs are right now, but he would get trounced for that with the independents. Newsom, buffoon, Gavin Newsom. Again, it's so important. How did these people act during the pandemic? What does Gavin Newsom do? He's a typical Democrat, but maybe he was just following what all the Democrats were doing, but he immediately takes people's rights, and then he doesn't want to admit he's wrong, and maybe it's not as bad as we originally thought. Let's give people their rights back. Let's open up the small businesses. No, he doubles and triples down and really ruins California, and now, what was it last year, California? First time in forever, they had a negative population. It went down because it's a complete hellscape. I would say, and this is not me being a conservative, I'm an independent. If you live in a big Democratic city, get out. They are not admitting they have high crime. They're not treating it because they think it's racist if they are tough on crime. You need to leave the big Democratic cities. They are hellscapes. That's coming from an independent. Next, you have Biden. So I tried with Biden. I really did. I think a lot of us did. Democrats, Republicans. Nobody wants him in. I think this is a Democratic strategy, and it's kind of the same. I'm not going to go on. This is going to be an hour-long video if I keep doing this. So I'm just going to keep it short on Biden. He's just too old. Like, if I feel like, let's say if Biden wasn't the president and I just went up to talk to him randomly on a Wednesday morning, I feel like it would take me 5 minutes just to even get Biden to understand he's having a conversation with someone. It's like he's so out of it, and I feel like that's what Democrats want. It's like it's a division of powers. So it's like whenever something bad happens amongst the Democratic Party or with the Biden administration, it's like you want to blame Biden, but you really can't blame him because he's just old and he has no clue what's going on. So it's like, what do you do? I know Democrats, I talk to them, they say, no, we want him out. A lot of the young Democrats hate Biden. Now, obviously, if it was Biden versus any Republican, they're still going to vote for Biden. But there's a lot of Democrats that think Biden is just way too old. He's 81. Even the older Democrats are saying, look, we might have to run someone else because this dude might not make it. Even if he does make it, like, what is the future with Biden? Are you going to run him as in a presidential campaign at the age of 81 and he's going to last until 85? See, I don't understand that. And like, think about, what do you guys think an 81-year-old? What are the first words that come to mind when you hear 81 years old? Retirement, grandfather, nursing home. It's just too old. And you could say, well, Trump's 76, but even the people that are anti-Trump admit, no, Trump has aged so much better than Biden. It is what it is. It's just how it happened. Michelle Obama. So I think Michelle Obama is definitely a no. We don't need the dynasties. We don't need an Obama dynasty. But I do think they might run Michelle Obama if she's up for it, obviously. If Biden's approval rating is not good or he's too old or whatever, she is a better candidate than Biden. Although Biden does have the incumbent advantage, I don't know. Next, Bernie Sanders. Bernie, I'm not sure if he's running. I'm going to say no for Bernie with the socialism. I'm not a fan of that. Tim Scott, I don't mind Tim. I'm going to have to hear Tim speak, and actually, he's got a lot of Republican donors. He's more of a traditional Republican that the Trump supporters will attack for being a rhino. I don't mind Tim, but I need to see more from him. The Rock possibly running as a Democrat, apparently. But maybe not this election cycle. Maybe if the Democrats lose this year, he might run in 2028. Maybe he runs as an independent. I just can't do it with The Rock. I haven't heard enough from him personally to really endorse anything like that. Next, we have Kanye West. Obviously, Kanye, he had some controversy with some of the comments and stuff like that. I'm really not allowed to get into it on here. So I'm going to say with Kanye, it's going to be a no. He just does it sometimes. I guess he ran in 2020. He got like 0.01% of the vote. Next, you've got Evan McMillan, I think, the Mormon dude from Utah. I'm going to say no. He'll probably run in the Republican, but he might win Utah. I think that's the state. Yeah, he might win Utah for in the primaries, but anything else, no. Jeb Bush. I actually don't think Jeb is running, but this thing just has Jeb Bush on here. So yeah, Jeb Bush is a real sad story. He just had the most donor money back in 2015. He was leading the polls. Trump just destroys him. And I mean, he had one of the biggest wastes I've seen. His campaign, man, they were trying to get a massive Bush dynasty together, and it was a complete failure because he just could not connect with people. Liz Cheney. So Liz is doing the whole, I'm a Republican, but I hate Trump. It's not going to happen, sweetie. Mike Pompeo, not a fan. Although, you know what? Let's see what he does in the debates and things like that. Apparently, he is running. Pete Buttigieg, not going to happen, Pete. It's just, with Buttigieg, his character really came out during that train derailment, and he didn't care because it was mainly, guys, this is the saddest thing about that Ohio train derailment. Buttigieg didn't care about it because the people being affected were conservative. It's just disgusting, man. It doesn't matter if they're conservative or not. These are Americans, and that was a horrible, horrible situation. They tried having a controlled derailment, and it completely, literally and figuratively blew up in their faces. And then Buttigieg is like, yeah, I really don't care because they're conservative. It's just disgusting, some of these people's behavior. Elizabeth Warren, I'll tell you this. I think Elizabeth Warren has more of a chance of being Native American than she does of winning the Democratic nominee. They're not going to let her win that, and they're certainly not going to let Bernie. I'll be honest, Bernie Sanders, he did get the Democratic nominee stolen from him. I mean, just completely in 2020. You got to feel for him. Tim Kaine, he's a lapdog. Remember when he ran with Hillary? Yeah, he was the vice president for Hillary Clinton or whatever, the vice presidential candidate in 2016. This is Bowman, I think, I want to say. This is a Democrat that might oppose Biden. I saw he had like the second best odds. I don't know how true that is. I'm going to say no. I don't know much about him, but I was able to look something up and I saw he had like the second best odds. Hillary Clinton, I don't think Hillary will run at this point. She didn't run in 2020. She loses in 2016. I think it's over for her. If they went with a woman, it would be Michelle Obama or it would be someone else. I don't think it would be Hillary. I mean, Hillary lost to Trump. Why would they run her? I don't even think she would try. Papa John, yeah, I don't see it with John. I like John, but in terms of president, it's just not going to happen. Ron DeSantis, yeah, so Ron DeSantis, for me, he is a legit political superstar, and I know even Democrats admit it. That's why they're doing this whole charade with Trump. Everyone knows DeSantis is the number one option for the United States. When you look at political primes, DeSantis, with his age, with his likability, the way he talks, winning Florida by 20 points, it's all unheard of. What the thing is, Democrats are not stupid. They saw the results of the 2020 midterms, and they saw all of the Trump candidates lost, including Dr. Oz, who lost to basically someone that was brain dead in Fetterman. So Trump did terrible during the midterms. He is very unlikable right now. DeSantis, on the other hand, wins Florida. Yes, he was an incumbent, but still, if you win Florida by 20 points, if I am a Democrat, I don't want to face DeSantis. I just don't want that. The problem is if DeSantis wins the Republican nominee and Trump steps away, because there's also the idea, even if DeSantis comes back, beats Trump, and I say comes back because Trump is way ahead right now in the polls because the Democrats did do a very smart thing, and I give them credit for politically swinging the Republican primary. Now Trump is trending because of the political witch hunt, the impeachment. They knew that this whole thing was ridiculous. They're doing it to make sure DeSantis is not the nominee. They know that DeSantis, if he runs in the general, he's going to win Florida guaranteed. So, that math is already done. So now there are so much more possibilities for DeSantis. He can take back Georgia. He's going to win Ohio. Ohio is basically already Republican. Now, if you get both Florida and Ohio already going in to election night, if those are clear Republican states, now you just need one of the other Rust Belt states. You could take Pennsylvania, you could take Michigan, you could even go out and take Arizona. So what about Nevada? There's a lot more paths, in my opinion, for DeSantis. He appeals to a lot more people. And the other key thing to note, if the Democrats do run Biden, if Trump is running, if you're a Republican, you can still use the age factor of Biden. But if you're the Democrats, you can at least hit back and say, I mean, Trump's 76. If Biden's 81 or 82 and Trump is 76, is it really that big of an age difference? But if you're running DeSantis, you can destroy the Democrats on how old Biden is compared to DeSantis. And I also think, quite frankly, a lot of people, normal people that aren't into politics, they watch Trump debate Biden and they're very naive and they say that Trump is a good debater. Folks, Donald Trump, he's funny, but in terms of actually politically debating someone, if Biden faced someone like DeSantis or Ben Shapiro or Vivek Ramaswamy, he would get annihilated simply because he doesn't have the mental capacity to keep up with someone like that who's in their late 30s, early 40s. If he's debating Trump, he can keep up with Trump. He can keep up with Trump real easy. So for me, it's DeSantis. He is a superstar. The most important thing any politician has done the last 2 or 3 years is what DeSantis did with Florida during the pandemic. There was so much uncertainty. He says, no, based on the numbers that we're getting, we are not shutting down. We are not taking away people's rights. Yes, we want to be cautious. We want to make sure. Think about it. DeSantis, this is what Trump's been saying about DeSantis. Trump was saying, oh, DeSantis, you shut down. Yes, and I, someone that's so pro-freedom, I said, listen, let's actually see the numbers on what the pandemic is doing, what is the virus doing to young children, things like that. Once all those numbers were nothing, that's when DeSantis opened back up. All he did was follow the numbers. That's all DeSantis did, right? And said, listen, I'm pro-freedom. The numbers say it's not affecting young people. We're opening back up. And that is the most important political thing I've seen the last 2 or 3 years by far, because it happened during a crisis and it was a decision that was made that directly affected people and gave people their freedoms back. So that is why I would say DeSantis has got to be the number one choice for the United States. How about a polar opposite? Dr. Fauci. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff I can't say on here about Dr. Fauci, with this being YouTube and stuff like that with what happened. But yeah, Dr. Fauci, it is what it is. He gets his orders from people, right? Yeah, that's about all I can say about him. Vivek Ramaswamy, I like Vivek. I think he's too young at 37. And the other thing that I've been seeing about Ramaswamy, it seems like he's angling almost to be Trump's VP. It's just my speculation. He won't call out Trump on anything. He keeps going after DeSantis. He has to understand, Trump is 76. He's old. This is it for Trump. Hitching your political career to Trump is not a good idea. That would be my message to Vivek. He's very smart. He's, what is he, almost a billionaire, I think. But yeah, so Vivek, I like him a lot. You could say even possibly, you could throw some of these guys into possibly, but to me, he's too young. I think the prime of a president is like early 40s. For him, it's like 2028, I would say for him. Next, we've got Joe Rogan. So Joe, I like Joe a lot. He's an IRL friend of mine. What I think Joe is going to do is he's probably going to wait until 2028, and then if the Republicans lose in 2024, he's going to run in 2028 as a Republican. But right now, he wants to lay in the weeds and kind of see what happens with the Republican Party and probably wait for this whole Trump mess to be over. That's kind of the strategy I've heard with a lot of these bigger people, Rogan being the podcasting superstar. And then we do have Ben Shapiro, who's basically using the same strategy. I like Ben Shapiro a lot. I think he could be a president one day. It's a combination of things. Too young, and also Ben Shapiro is going to want to wait until the Trump factor is done. Ben Shapiro knows Trump, this is it for him. If you go into the election right now and you're Ben Shapiro, Ben Shapiro really doesn't even like Trump that much. Now, he can kind of hide it because he's not running against Trump or anything like that. So with his Daily Wire segments and things like that, he doesn't have to necessarily do negative segments on Trump. He can just focus on the Democrats. But if Ben Shapiro were to join the race, you're basically left with two options. You go the option of DeSantis, which is, all right, I'm going to have to go up against this guy. This guy's coming after me. I'm going to have to start coming after him. And then you alienate a lot of Republicans because there's so many Republicans that just support Trump. Or you just be a Trump butt plug, which is kind of what Vivek Ramaswamy's doing right now, and you support Trump and you go against DeSantis, but then you have no chance of winning because you're basically just a worse Trump. And that's not what Shapiro would do. Shapiro would go against Trump. But I think Shapiro wants to wait for the whole Trump thing to go over, just like Joe Rogan, and then announce in 2027 that he's running in 2028 if the Republicans lose. The other thing that's important to note with Trump, he's already served a term. So, that's the thing. Trump really doesn't care about anyone. If you're a Republican, it is not ideal to elect a guy who has no chance of getting that incumbent advantage. And I know the Republicans are like, oh my God, the dream is Trump in 2024, DeSantis in 2028. No, I think the dream is DeSantis 2024, DeSantis 2028. For the future of the country, that's how I would have it. So, again, a lot of these candidates, they're going to go in the know. Who can actually win at this point, based off the polls that I've seen, You're talking DeSantis, Trump, Biden, Michelle Obama. Well, that's a lot of speculation if Michelle Obama would run. Kamala Harris is not on here. So if I were to rank Kamala Harris, I would put her in no. I don't think they would run Kamala Harris. They would rather run Biden. Biden actually, I don't know if this is true or not anymore, but the last time I saw, Biden does have a better approval rating than Harris because she just can't talk and she's not likable. So the Democrats' strategy with Harris, they would just throw her to the side, honestly, if Biden couldn't run, and they would pick someone else. I would be shocked if they ran Harris. That's a major risk, running her. Because she's just not likable and she does a really good job communicating during her speeches. So that's kind of the current political situation we have going on in the United States. Other people can do this and do their own version of this for sure. We all have our own opinions and stuff like that. But it always is something interesting to look at. So guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you're following me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description. I'm, of course, the Depressed Ginger. Thank you for watching.